Hey everyone, really brief discussion today. I wanted to talk a little bit about how I judge a weapon's results in terms of how good they are. This is mainly applying to underused weapons, something like Dapple or Dually Sculpture winning events recently, just to name a few examples. But it could also do with weapons that people don't rate as like some of the best in the game that do very well. For example, at least in the Western scene, 52 has quite a number of major wins under its belt. In fact, it's probably more of them than those that don't have it recently. But it's not ranked as like an X tier weapon. So, I want to talk about it, and I think there's three factors here. One, if a player does well in a major event, this is either winning a decently stacked top level event or placing, top 2, top 3 in a major event. That's what I would say is a notable enough placement for me. For other people's standards may be harsher. The second thing is how many people are winning on the weapon. Are more people picking it up and using it and finding the same level of success? And three is how consistently is it placed in one. First factor is pretty simple. If it wins in a tournament, it has to have some degree of good. You could say that, oh, it's just this one player that wins with it, so it's just the player, but I'd argue no. The player is using the tools the weapon provides. So if they're able to do good with the weapon, some of that has to be the factor of the weapon. It's not like the player can do anything with any weapon. They're using the set tools in the game of whatever they are using. Second is more players. If more people are using it and doing well with it, that indicates more and more that the weapon has tools worth picking up that players can more easily exploit. The more people are using a weapon, the more common it is, and therefore probably the more accessible it is. And the more accessible it is, probably the better it is, to be honest. This could be used to argue in cases of stuff like 52 being better than people rate them as, but also in cases of, hey, maybe Stamper isn't as good as it seems because not as many people do well with it. So you can make the argument for that based off the use cases of the weapon. Finally, though, and this is most important when looking at newer weapons, how consistently is it placing? So for example, Dapple won the Area Cup, hasn't done anything else since then. Well, in a more individual-focused tournament, it won, Zenkai, and in the most recent Area Cup, it got third place with a 2-3 loss, which is clearly keeping up very well with a lot of other higher stacked teams. So in this case, yes. Now why does that matter that it's consistently doing well? Well, because once you lose to something, people are going to start to learn it, and this is something that I've been experiencing with my Dreadringer composition. My In The Zone group has continued playing after that tournament win and done another event. We scrimmed against Goss's team, who ended up winning the event, and we scrimmed against Clef's team, who ended up taking us out in winners. And what happened both times is we played them, did very well in the first 30 minutes of the scrim, then there were major comp adaptations to what we were running, mainly revolving around Neosplash right now, and then we started to do worse. Which goes to show that, hey, the way people are trying to play against our comp, strategy-wise and weapon-wise, isn't optimized. There's room for the other players to do better as well, and now it's up to us, or whatever weapon is being picked, to show that despite this new counterplay and strategies evolving, the weapon can still do well. Which in this case, isn't proven yet for Dread. So I think that's a number of factors that are interesting to think about in total. As to what you want to judge, it's kind of up to you. To me, if a weapon wins like a major tournament, then it's probably a high tier weapon, given how good the viability of things are. But for me to rank a weapon as like a top tier, some of the absolute best, it needs more than just one win. To me, the top tier weapons of the game have to be proven that they can work against counterplay. So for example, rollers are typically kind of weak against like point sensor stuff. So we could see counterplay to more stall comps has been more common. But despite people getting better at dealing with stall comps, they continue to do well. Moonlight did very well against Kyo's team. They were able to get a set off them and almost win a tournament, 2-3 in bracket reset, despite their team clearly adapting with stuff like sensor weapons. So it goes to show the stall stuff that, Metro originally did. Some JP teams have also used roller in a bit of a different way. These weapons are still good, because even when people are counterplaying the rollers, stuff like Carbon and Vanilla Roller are still doing well. So now this is proof that, hey, the weapons can work even when counterplay is going against them. And I think that's probably the hardest part of proving a more underused weapon is good. At first, people aren't familiar with the strategy, and you get a little bit of benefit from that. But eventually, people have to adapt to it. And that's something that's also really important for any top-level team. You have to care about a lot more matchups than you did before. You have to care about the Dapple matchup. You've never had to care about the Dapple matchup, but now you gotta know how to deal with it. You have to be able to counterplay Dapple dually, because it's clearly good enough to where you might see someone using it in a top-level event and have to know how to deal with it. And for a lot of these weapons that are more up-and-coming, people don't really have a lot of experience against it. They might not know exactly how fast the weapon is or how much it paints, etc. So That's my factors, that's what I think about, so I hope this gives you a little bit of perspective into my thoughts on judging weapons based off results. Thanks for watching.